Do we test hypotheses in phenomenology? Is there a standard number sampling? These are just two of the questions that will be answered in this episode. But before we start, let's review the meaning of phenomenology as a type of qualitative research. Before anything else, I would like to give credit to my professor in qualitative research, Dr. Brian Vasquez. Let's get started. Phenomenology is a type of research that starts with questions to explore the lived in experiences of the participants in the study. This indicates the nature of inquiry, the key concepts or phenomenon of a certain group, community, or setting. What is the concept in phenomenology? In phenomenology, the concept is not variable, it is phenomenon. The subjects are not respondents, they are your informants, co-investigator. And the point of view here is always the experiencing person. The experiencing person is the person who really experienced the phenomenon. Do we test hypotheses in phenomenology? The answer is no. A big no. There is no testing of hypotheses here. Do we need to prepare theoretical models or framework? The answer is no, because we're going to investigate an experience here, not to test hypotheses. And knowing and understanding people's feelings and experiences do not need theories to be investigated. We don't need to research about theories to support the study before conducting the study. For you to start your phenomenological study, you should know the approaches in phenomenology before starting. Research about these approaches, then decide what are you going to use. These are your choices: individual, empirical, dialogical, and hermeneutic. In individual phenomenology, researchers use their own actual and imaginary experiences and others' factual and fictional written accounts and theories to develop a thematic description of a phenomenon. This approach involves introspection. Introspection is a method of inner observation or examination of one's thoughts and feelings, like assumption. It means that you have to provide theories after you analyze the collected information. In empirical phenomenology, researchers examine descriptions provided by the co-researchers who are the informants of the study through interviews and thematizes the data after collecting the descriptions. In dialogical phenomenology, the researcher interviews. He or she could ask the co-researchers to check the transcripts and involve them in analyzing and thematizing. According to Cohen's, hermeneutic phenomenology is an approach concerned with understanding the text. In this approach, the researcher aims to create rich and deep account of a phenomenon through intuition while focusing on uncovering rather than accuracy, amplification with avoidance of prior knowledge. There is no step-by-step method or analytic requirements in hermeneutic phenomenology. The only requirements are commitment to an abiding concern, oriented stance toward the question, investigating the experience as it is lived, describing the phenomenon through writing and rewriting, and consideration of parts and whole. However, there is a problem with bracketing here. What is bracketing? Bracketing is associated with epoch or transcendental reduction. This is about eliminating, suspending, or setting aside our prejudices, biases, everyday understandings, theories, beliefs, habitual modes of thoughts, and judgments. This means ignoring your assumptions as a researcher because your goal here is to uncover the essence, the true beings about the informant's experience. What is epoch? Epoch is learning to look at things in a way such that we see only what stands before our eyes, only what we can describe and define. So, the key in making phenomenological study is describe, describe, describe. Your informant will just simply tell their stories based on their experience. Therefore, as a researcher, your role is listening and understanding this experience. Now that you have chosen an approach, what are you going to prepare as a researcher? There are three things that you should prepare. These are questions, letter of consent, and recorder. Your questions are your interview guides, whether you're having a focus group or one-on-one interview. Next is letter of consent. For ethical consideration, you have to process consent on recorded or unrecorded interviews and observations. If informant refuses to give written consent, make sure to document the consent or assent in other means. If at any time there is a change of informant's mind, do not proceed with the documentation and destroy all evidences provided by that specific informant. I will show you on how to make a letter of consent in the next episode. Just don't forget to click like, subscribe, and press the notification bell for you to be updated of my lessons. And last but not the least, you should have a recorder. A recorder is very important, or else you have nothing to transcribe. As a researcher, what do you want to know? These are your guide in making questions. What is the lived experiences of the informants? Let the informant describe his or her experience. For instance, what can you say about your experience in modular learning? What does this experience mean to you? You have to extract the essence of the experience. Where did it happen? Why did it happen? You have to know the origin. How did it happen? You have to know the whole story, the process. You can formulate questions that could lead you closer to the phenomenon. Remember, you should get to know the experience, its essence, its origin, and its process. The next question is there a standard number of informants for sampling? Some would say 5 to 10, others 2 to 20, but there is no agreed rule. The only criteria is the informant must have experienced the phenomenon. Now, the intention of the research is to arrive in data saturation. Stop when the data saturation is achieved or no new information emerge. Avoid gathering contaminants. When can we say that there is data saturation? When there is sufficient information collected to answer the phenomenon being investigated, there is data saturation. It is when the researcher is satisfied with the amount of collected data and the research purpose is achieved. What to do after the interviews? First, listen to the recorder and transcribe the data or data word for word. As a researcher, you have to read the transcripts several times. For beginners, you can do analysis of the transcripts manually, but for those who are making thesis and dissertation, you can use InVivo app to make life easy. You could ask the informant to review your transcript for accuracy and clarification. The statements related to the phenomenon will be coded and thematized. Third, list all the themes and group them together. Next, recode transcripts with overall themes and finalize. And fifth, write up the findings. Then there you go, because you're making phenomenological research, you are now a phenomenologist. Thank you very much for watching. Up next, what is letter of consent and how to write it. Remember to click like and subscribe, then hit the notification bell for you to be updated on my lessons. This has been your Teacher L.